Right. You are live. Okay, great. Sorry for a little bit of the delay. I was trying to do something new with the banner up here on top today, Aromatherapist in Business. I think it came out a bit too big, so my apologies. We are here today again with Michelle Gilbert. Welcome one more time back.
Hello.
And it's so exciting, and we put another poll out actually around what would be interesting for you to hear about, and it came very dominantly back this time with the websites, what to say and what not to say, and what websites are all about, and if we should actually maybe have them as aromatherapists. And I collected a few questions as well, because we are going live on multiple channels. So I've got a few questions here ready for you. And Michelle, would you like to maybe introduce yourself one more time, because we only had it once, but maybe it's helpful for everyone to know one more time what you're doing and, well, who you are. Most of the people know.
Sure. I kind of delve into a few different areas. I obviously am an aromatherapy educator, and I coach any professional who wants to use essential oils in their business, whether you're certified or not. I also delve into some tech services. I have a huge, like about a 45-year history of working in technology, specifically web development and kind of creating containers for people to inhabit and make their businesses sparkle. And so making things a little bit easier for them, like setting up acuity services or helping them with their website and website copy and things like that. So it kind of crosses into technology, aromatherapy, business coaching. I've got about a 15 or so year history of being in the aromatherapy industry. I've owned both my own retail businesses. I've been a practitioner. I've been a consultant to other aromatherapy businesses. I've been an educator for 5 or 6 years. So I've kind of tried it all and done it all, and it's fun to bring it all together and share it with other people so that you guys can get out there and do it great.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that is something what we are really trying to do here in Aromatherapists in Business as well, because I think one of the biggest hurdles most of us have and maybe had in the past is which steps to take when, and really to become, I mean, there's so much to think about in the beginning of a business, right after the education is done. There are many choices on the market as well. And I think, hold on, let me overthink this. I love this cup.
Anybody who works with me, you've been warned.
That is precisely what I like about this guy. But yeah, so I remember when I began in general with businesses, and that's like years and years back as well, when I had my first textile business and then my coffee shop. Everything was somehow gearing towards online in one way or another. Let it be you have a website where you promote your products, or you have a website to write a blog maybe, or a blog website specifically. But I do think in today's days, we do need to have an online presence in one way or another, and let it be, on Facebook or Instagram, but definitely, and that's a few questions which came up, definitely maybe even a website. So I'm going to just jump in here and show the first one, which came up. Should all aromatherapists have a website or at least a blog? When do you think a website is a must? And yeah.
I have kind of strong opinions about this. I think I think a website is always a must. I think it's great to be in social media. Beyond great, super important. But if you think about it, that's not your real estate. Like you're sticking a sign in somebody else's yard. And just TikTok recently, if anybody here has heard about TikTok and what's been happening, that they're being threatened to be shut down, and MySpace disappeared, right? So if you cultivate a really strong presence, you hop on the next bandwagon, let's say, and you really cultivate a strong presence there. What happens when the people move on, when that platform shuts down? You have to have a place to redirect people to that's kind of your home base. And I think that as soon as you know that this is a path you're feeling like you want to pursue, that you're feeling called to pursue it, that's the time. Start blogging, even if it's a 300-word blog post. Start simple. Start with something that you can manage. You can always evolve it and grow it later. And it's so much easier to do that now than it was even 10 years ago. But, be careful that you're not overstepping your knowledge boundaries. I have places that I don't delve into because they're not my areas of expertise. But if you stay with what you're doing and what you know and what you're learning in the moment, and you start sharing it with others, you're going to pick up people that need to know where you're at. They want to follow your journey. They want to celebrate that with you. And you can use social media to say, hey, new blog post, and get them over to your website. Yeah. So I think always it's your online calling card. People are going to look for you online. I get so much traffic to my website, just people looking for a local aromatherapist.
Yeah, interesting. And then, we don't need to get into this, but there are these different options to even be part of the Google business, where you get even more tractions. You sign up your business on Google as well. And I do believe as well strongly that you need to have some way of an online presence other than Facebook or Instagram, because I've seen now in all the business groups I'm part of that some people got their Facebook page or group even shut down. So that was basically everything you worked for is gone.
Yes.
So it is important that you try to stay both. I mean, social media is important, but you should always send your social media, I think, to the website. And I would agree there. I would have a strong opinion there too.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at there too. We're going to maybe take comments a little bit. I can't hear you, they say. I close out and come back in. Excited to be here. Can you hear us? Let me see. We just got a few comments from someone and they said, I can't hear you. Excited to be here. Someone else said, let us know if you can't hear us. Let me just double check something. And I hope so. But we will go on.
Is it both of? Well, I was going to ask if you could hear both of us, but they can't hear, so they won't be able to answer.
Yeah, they both wouldn't be able to answer. It's true. But I'm just going to hop quickly on the site to see, or into our group to just see. Give us just a small moment. Sorry about that. I can hear you well, Michelle. Somebody else? Yes, I can hear you. Okay, great. I can hear you now. It was on my end. Okay, perfect. Great. All right, we're going to continue then. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to go back to the next question. If someone has never had an online presence, where should they start, basically? Do you have any tool suggestions? And that is something, people are struggling with, because we have an enormous variety of online tools at this point available from different blogs. WordPress has a lot of plugins, but you said start out simple. What would be your suggestion there? And maybe there are a couple of suggestions we might need to look at.
Yeah, and there are a lot of great options now. I think it depends on your comfort level and your budget. For some people, a WordPress site, and there are even two options there that I'll explain in a second. For some people, that's great. For other people, maybe if you want to start out selling a few products initially, that may not be your best choice because it'll take a little bit of extra configuring. So it really depends on what you want to do. If you want to teach, then I might suggest staying with something like WordPress. I'll get into some other options in a second. If you know that you want to sell some products, or maybe that's a way to help finance your case studies, which most schools I think do allow, but you would want to check, you might want to look at something else. And some options that come to mind for me would be Squarespace or Wix. I've seen a lot of options in the $25 a month range. And I know that can sound like a lot to start with, but if you think about that, that's under $300 a year, around $300 a year as an investment in your business is very, very reasonable. WordPress is great. It's what I use. There are two different options. If you just want to rent space and let WordPress do all the complicated work for you, you can sign up at WordPress.com. where they will host a blog for you and do all the tech stuff under the hood, and you don't have to deal with it. If you want your own domain, so like mine is michelle-gilbert.com, you would then need to go with installing WordPress. Like you would need to buy that domain and install it yourself and deal with all of that yourself. So that may not be for everybody. But those are kind of the two directions you can go with WordPress alone. If you want to start moving into even bigger, like one-stop shopping solutions, I would think about things like Lead Pages or even Kajabi. With Kajabi, you start to get into a higher price tag. And the advantages of those services, they're fantastic. It really is what you want to spend and where you're at right now. And you can move around. You're not stuck. You know, if you start with WordPress, you're not stuck there. There's always a way to move if you need to. The advantages of some of the more expensive services are that you can start integrating like without bringing in extra tools and doing a lot of configuration. They will do things like mailing list management. If you're familiar with what a lead magnet is, basically, you know, a free download that you offer people in return for signing up for your mailing list. That is a lead magnet. So like I have that substitution chart, that's a lead magnet. Kajabi and Lead Pages will build all of that in. Kajabi, I'm not sure about Lead Pages, but Kajabi will also incorporate an online learning platform so that if you wanted to teach some online classes, it's already there for you. But you're talking, I think the lower plan is like $200 a month or something like that. So
it is, it's 149, and then it goes up from those prices. But yeah, exactly, I would agree. And maybe to just add as well is I've got my store, for example, on Shopify. So if you want to do products, Shopify starts, I believe, at $29 a month, so that could be an option as well. And I also have an Etsy store, which is very low cost to start out if you do products, and that's how I started out way back then.
Yeah, and I have mixed feelings on Etsy. I think what they do very, very well. Where we have to be careful is not undervaluing our products. I have an Etsy shop that I'm going to be adding some more printables to. I have one whole printable right now, but I'm getting there. And, you know, it's good for competitive research, but I've also found that it really is a battleground on price. And if we want to stand out as trained and qualified, there's also a lot of stuff going on there that may not be.
It's a pain because you do not get, basically being in Europe, for example, if you don't offer free shipping, you're not going to be shown as one of the top results. And it is just a little bit demotivating at times because they constantly change their algorithms, and then obviously they want you to spend some money on advertisement. But on the other hand, if you just want to get your feet wet a little bit and play around with a few products, it might be a good idea. But I definitely think it's better to own your site. And I think they offer even your website through Etsy, Pattern it's called. But that's just another. But I do agree. I've got my courses on Kajabi, and that is a wonderful platform, but it is on the high end. And
there are other options for that too. If you want to go to something like teachable.com, and I think it's another one. So if you want to host online courses, and make sure you're ready for something like that. I think, you know, most people with a good amount of training are ready to maybe launch a beginner's class or a very focused subject matter class. You know, don't bite off more than you can chew. Stay confident, stay in your comfort zone, and stay with what you're excited about. But you could start with, you know, one of those other independent platforms and host a class and see how it goes before jumping in and setting up everything on your own website. There's so many options.
And it's a steep learning curve too. So if we just want to start out, basically, let's say somebody comes out of the aromatherapy training and somebody would like to start a blog. I think Word, as you said, is like a very simple solution to start out with, just a simple word site. My host is GoDaddy.com. They do offer websites as well for $9.99 a month. That might be another option too, but there are some low-cost options for sure to start out and get you. And I agree with you. Start slow, stay in your comfort zone, and don't go into this crazy mess of technology. Sometimes that can be.
I think it can backfire on you. And the other thing I would want to offer is, I know that it's very, very tempting with a site with a program, a plan like Wix, to stay with their free plan, Wix, if you're not familiar. Heartfelt, I say please don't, because there's always a message on the bottom of the website, or at the very top, this is a free site hosted by Wix. And I think you want to look like you're invested in your business so that people are willing to put their trust in you. I mean, if you're not willing to spend $9.99 a month, this is my tough love portion. If you're not willing to spend $9.99 a month on your website, then maybe think about what you are ready to do and what does pull to you, because it's a worthy investment in your business. The simpler you start, the more professional you can look, because it's easy to get in over your head with fancy templates and every widget and you don't need it. You need a strong message. I get frustrated when I go to a site that looks like it's going to promise me the moon, but the content isn't really there. So it's a balance to strike.
It is. It's true. And starting out small, you can always grow. I totally agree. Yeah. So good. Yeah. So another one was what to put. Well, that was part of our question as well, but that's what someone wants to say here as well. What should be part of my website? What is maybe to start out? What can we put on the website to just make it, like you said, presentable and that you know what you're talking about? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Sure. And I think there's a few ways to look at it. The type of content, and then maybe the way to arrange it. One mindset to start from might be the journalist questions, who, what, why, where, when, how, and sit down and kind of answer all those questions for yourself. Basically, I think the most important thing is, who are you serving? What is their specific pain point? How do you solve it? How do you address it in language that person can relate to and they will use themselves to describe their own problem? So in other words, you're going to be talking to a lot of people in your niche and see how they're talking about the thing that you want to help them with. And so I would start there. I would talk a little bit about who you are and what your background is. I don't think it's necessary to list all of your training. I think, to be quite honest, sometimes that can look a little desperate, like, no, please take me seriously. Your language will communicate that. I think it's important to mention that you are certified at a particular level and that you're a member of professional organizations and things like that. That level of credibility, yes.
So basically put in the logos you can download from NAHA or AIA. You can add those to your website, for example.
Yes. I think that's great. Yeah. You want to make sure they know how to contact you, and you want to make that as easy as possible. I prefer to use a contact form instead of an email address stated on the website, and there are some technical reasons for that. That it's a little safer for you on your end to use a contact form.
Yeah, because with an email address, you might give your email address away to some other people you do not want to be contacted by constantly.
Yes, and it can get snitched by bots and things on the internet, and we don't want that. The other thing I would talk about is the benefits of your services, again, in a way a client understands. And there's a lot of distinctions that can be made here. We all talk about the features. Maybe we have organic cotton wicks in our inhalers, but your client or your customer, maybe that resonates, but why is that important? So your benefits, why the features are important. Why are the organic cotton wicks important to your client or customer? How does everything you're doing benefit them? It needs to be about them.
Yes, it does need to be about them. That's right. Yeah. So basically, really, it comes down to knowing who your customer is. Who is your ideal customer avatar? And that is just another question, of course, everybody should be asking themselves and try to figure out in the very beginning before you maybe even start building your website, because you do need to point it to someone and deliver it to, even when you go to social media, you do want to know where to place your website on or how to promote yourself. Yeah, no.
I would also add, though, if you are just starting out, you might not know who that is because you're still kind of digesting and absorbing what you just learned. And Some people come in super clear. Maybe you're a massage therapist who then went on and got their certification. You might have a better idea because you've already got a typical type of client that you work with, but some people don't. And if you don't know who your ideal client avatar is, you may not be able to sit down and figure it out on a piece of paper just yet. But one way that you can is by starting to write those blog posts, because notice the things that you're fired up about, that you want to write about, that you get a good response to, and where all that kind of meets in the middle is probably a great clue to your next directions. So again, starting slow, you can let that evolve. Plus then, 2-3 years from now, you've got a lot of content to repurpose and refine, and you look established, and everybody wants to see that.
Yeah, and content is king, and you can do a lot with your content. And if you write long blog posts, you can basically sparse them apart and make smaller social media posts. And there's a lot of options. And it's actually nice to sit down once a month, maybe even to just bring one newsletter out or one blog post or one little piece to your website, because that makes you really grow, as you said, with your content. And I think there was just another thing. I'm not good at writing long blog posts. Should a blog be part of my website? Do you have any thoughts around this? Do we need to have blog writing experience or any writing experience to write blog posts?
Well, some people don't even like to read long blog posts. Right? And you'll develop your style. You don't need to be a brilliant writer. You need to have a message, and you need to have something, again, that needs to be all about the person who's reading your website. You need to offer them something useful. You can do that even if you're not a skilled writer. You can work with people to help you polish your writing. There are copywriting coaches. I used to be a copy editor, so I do offer some of those services in conjunction. So there are people who can help. But, I would say, it's like anything, it's practice. I mean, think about what you knew about essential oils when you started and what you know now and what it took you to get there. You practiced and you made mistakes, but they weren't mistakes because they taught you a new direction to go, or you learn from them. And writing is very much like that. And you find out who you are and what you have to say by writing. Write every day. If you write 300 words per blog post, you've written a blog post. Some people are 1,000 words. I tend to write long ones because my brain just does that. I wish I could write shorter content.
I can help you out with that.
So the process can work one way or another. Like you said, you can have a long blog post that you can take pieces of and repurpose, and repurposing is the name of the game, and it repeats your message too. So there's value to it. But you can break the big blog post into multiple posts. You can break it into a little social media, many social media posts. You can go the other way around though too. If I see something that inspires me and I want to stick it out on social media, I do keep it short, but then it can turn into a longer blog post as ideas percolate. So it really, I think the most important thing is to be regular, even if it's once a month, you're regular, and that'll show, right? Be reliable, be resourceful for your readers, and commit to showing up. You have to make that commitment to yourself. I know how hard it is. I know how scary it is. I'm the biggest introvert in the world, and I spent another 15 years editing other people's words. I was a medical copy editor, which is super exciting, but unnecessary. Wow. Yeah. And to find your own voice, I respect the challenge behind that. You can. Yeah. You absolutely can. Even if you start with a personal journal in the morning and write 10 minutes, or in the evening, whatever works best for you, write down the 3 things you learned in your aromatherapy studies that day. Like, do that every day, or the 2 different successes you had this week. Guess what? You've just given yourself some stuff to think about for some content.
So it is about doing something consistently. If it is morning pages, or writing a blog post once a week, or writing down your notes in one way or another, or listening to a podcast and take notes from there, but do something which inspires you pretty much every day or every week, that you have like a blocked time maybe. Yeah. Where you say, that's what I'm going to do, or that's where my creativity. But I get just curious. So basically, would it be possible then for you, or to hire you for a slice of that when I write a blog post, that you would be able to go over that? Do you offer that service?
I could. I would. I'm always interested in what the need is, and so I stay flexible with what I would offer. Yeah, I would do that. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
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 I've done it. I've done it for a couple businesses. What I did for them was I did light editing. I didn't do real heavy editing because I want them to. It's really important to me that you keep your own voice and define who you are as an identity, so people get to know you, and you don't need me eventually, right? What I helped the other businesses with was making sure that, I can't make any guarantees, but that maybe they were staying compliant to scope of practice issues or FDA, that there weren't any grammatical errors, that maybe there was a place we could shorten this up or simplify it, to make sure the message was super clear. That's a really great thing to do with what we'll call static website content, which is your homepage, your about page, all those kinds of things. And that's the stuff that lives there permanently, really needs to be polished and really needs to sing. I think it's also important for blog posts too. Yes.
And I think even, for those, especially for those static pages, what you just mentioned, the about page or your message in general to the public, I think there it is almost really worth it to spend some money to have someone look it over and edit it, because it will stand on your website for quite a while.
Yeah, and you heard it here first. I am beginning to build a few new service packages, and one of them is basically like an incubator or an intensive to create your website content and support for it. And I'm building in some web design and development services on my end. I'm not there yet, but certainly anybody who wanted to work with the editing and the writing bit, I don't have the package hammered out yet, but it's in the works.
Yeah, but I think that is a very valuable, especially in the beginning, because we have a lot to think about in the beginning.
We do, and we have a lot of our voices as educated aromatherapists need to be heard, and we need to be heard with our best foot forward in this climate. We have a lot to offer, and I mean, the difference in confidence that I've seen in people and being able to put themselves out there when they know that they look solid online. It's like you have your best suit on and you feel like you're ready to go out there and you've got that backing you up.
Yeah, true. That's very true. So, so maybe that leads a little bit. Where can I find or get inspiration on what to write on my website or in the blog? Maybe is there a certain inspiration area? But I think you mentioned a little bit already. Is like what you just learned maybe in class, to write down 3 things you were really excited about, or maybe what you just learned on a podcast. That's another inspiration. But do you have maybe a few more thoughts there?
Sure. Read everybody else's blogs. Read what everybody else is doing. The people that inspire you, your contemporaries, or the teaching community. See what they're writing about. Let it percolate. Your main takeaway. Sometimes you just want to share what somebody else. You want to share with your audience what somebody else is writing about. We all want to do that for each other and help each other grow. So.
Yeah.
Subscribe to as many blogs as you can. Thinking, I guess I'm kind of an outlier in this realm because I've seen a lot of damage come from comparing ourselves to others or looking at other people's websites to either figure out what we need to be offering to our own clients or even just writing about. So I guess I am I'm struggling here because I've just listened to your inner voice and what we just talked about before and what you pointed out again. I also think that if you understand the underpinnings of addressing your clients, their needs, that this is, I guess it kind of becomes a non-issue. There are ways to structure your content. You'll hear people talk about creating a content bank. Maybe you've got 5 different types of content that you write about, and in 3 different formats. Maybe one of them's a survey, maybe sometimes it's an infographic, maybe sometimes it's a long form blog post, and you just kind of rotate those things in and out. That's a great strategy to take, to just lay out a structure for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, that is a good idea.
Yeah. And there's another ways to do that.
Yeah. No, another thought I just had too, what I did in the very beginning is just basically go around and tell someone that you just graduated as an aromatherapist, and questions will actually automatically come. So, what do you do as an aromatherapist? Or where can I find you? Or why did you study that? So sometimes just exposing yourself to others in one way or another will have come questions towards you, and then you can work on that on your website as well, or even in your blog. This is why I became an aromatherapist, or this question came up several times, and here's what I think about it. So really being open and talking to others what you are and who you are and what you're doing sparks a lot of interest and questions sometimes.
It does. And another thing that came to mind for me is I don't know what you would specifically search for, but there are all sorts of blogs about blogging, and prompts, like subject matter prompts. You're always seeing like 7 reasons X is excellent, and 10 reasons you need to think about using lavender. Like the number, like the 10 reasons, the 7 best, whatever. That's one kind of category of things you can write. There are all sorts of content ideas out there on the web, and I think you probably could Google, subject ideas, like blog post topic ideas, and it may be meant for dog groomers, but you could still adapt it to.
Yeah, no, one of my favorite tools is exactly what you were saying. You can use Google actually to just type up a question you might have had before you started even working with essential oils. But there's the tool called Ask the Public.
Answer the Public.
Answer the Public. Yeah. I love that tool because you basically put in lavender, and it gives you in different formats all kinds of ideas or questions which came up, or not could come up, but which came up on the internet already. And you might, I think that is a beautiful tool. It's called Answer the Public. Exactly. I used that one in the beginning when I had just I got stuck on writing ideas, and I just literally researched Google and typed in a few things and then went over and saw that tool. I like that one just for inspiration as well.
I think you get 1 free search a day.
Yeah, it might have.
It's a little expensive for the paid plan, but the free search, give it a try.
Give it a try. Exactly. I started that one 3 years ago or 2 years ago, where it was still free and you could do up to 10. And so that might have changed. But there are many of these little search tools out there at this point, and they all have free plans in the beginning. And then, of course, they all want money, and they need to be supported in one way or another. But it just, in the beginning, it can give you some ideas as well to find those search tools or answer the Public.
And you can sign up for like Google News alerts for specific topics to see what other people are talking about.
Yeah.
Another thing to think about is commenting on other people's blogs to get your name out there, and obviously observe some respect and not take over the discussion, but just kind of make a useful comment or appreciate their content.
True. Yeah.
And not connecting at a dinner party, really.
Yeah, it is true. And I feel that anyway happening in the group already, just being social, basically. And you can be social on the internet as well. It's a must, even, I think, to connect and have your name out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
I've got a couple more questions here, I think. So someone said, okay, I'm specifically interested in what not to say, because I think that was probably part of the question as well, what to say and what not to say and how to say it. But is there anything where you say what not to say? Is there?
I think so.
I think
First,
so.
yeah,
Well, maybe not say that you were married 20 times, or maybe even say that,
maybe.
I don't know.
Well, if you're supporting divorced people, maybe it's the same. It depends, and there's so many opinions. As I think about this, to me, what would be indisputable would be anything that's outside of your scope of practice.
Yeah.
So, curative or diagnostic language, be careful. Don't, basically don't.
Don't.
Understanding we are here to support wellness, not treat disease.
Yes.
And that would need to be reflected in all of your language. And if you're selling retail products and you're talking about aromatherapy on your blog, I mean, you just need to be very, very careful that everything is in alignment. It's super important. I would watch the overshare. In my years working with different types of holistic practitioners or psychotherapists, we always have to remember that it's about the client. And if we start, I think a lot of us come to the healing arts for a reason. We've been through something, and this was the way that we found support, and we wanted to give back. And I think it's super important to share enough of your story that that people understand that you've come through the other side and you have tools. But I think that sharing the details of the story or any struggles that you're currently dealing with or anything like that can maybe make a client feel uncomfortable for a multitude of reasons, whether they feel like you won't be able to be present to them, or you haven't worked through your own, or maybe they might trigger you. Like, you don't want to do anything that's going to make them feel like you can't focus on them based on what you're drawing from in your own life. If you can share in that context, then you've got a gift to share with people. So make sure that that's where you're at. I recently wrote a blog post about kind of how to deal with things when you're grieving.
Yes, I read that.
And I think that it kind of touches on some of these same issues. I would also, I think this goes without saying, but I'm a big proponent of inclusivity. I'm talking about MLMs here. I don't think that it's going to be very helpful to be negative or doing any comparisons or flaming anybody, or, I guess as a rule of thumb, maybe something to consider is when you're working with your clients, the AIA and NAHA both have a practitioner code of ethics, and I'm sure that the IFPA does as well, and the CFA and all of that. I would be curious. I've never sat down and thought about this, but I'd be curious how those practitioner ethics would then apply to anything we write. I think it needs to be across the board.
Yeah.
We want to uplift people. We want to disseminate information. We want to connect with our clients. We want them to feel supported. And I'm not sure how bashing somebody else or oversharing it. If you are in doubt that you should share something, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, true. Yeah. If you have a second thought there, should I hit the send button or publish button, then probably overthink it one more night, really, and maybe don't do it right away. I would agree. Yeah, that is something definitely. And I think it is also difficult to see, well, I think sometimes we don't even know where we should get the information or what not to say, how compliant it is, because it's the World Wide Web. And here we are in America with different, or you're in America, I'm in Portugal, but we all have different laws. So I might be able to write something more open or in different ways than America is allowed to write that. So it's a really fine line to walk, actually, in this entire online world.
It is, and to me, that even points more clearly to having a niche. I'm in the USA, obviously, and I don't really work very much with people overseas, and I gear my language toward people in America. It doesn't mean I can't, but up till now, that's been my focus. And maybe if you're in Portugal, you adapt to who your audience is going to be, and I think making that very clear. I think erring on the conservative side is probably also a really good idea.
It is, and the laws are different here in Portugal as well. And it's just really what you said. It's good to know what you know and try to maybe not pretend to be someone you can't be.
There's
So
nothing wrong with that. We can't be everything to everyone. We cannot, because
no, no.
that's going to cheat us out of maximizing what we are here for.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. So if somebody is not a technical person, and I think you mentioned that in the beginning already, that you have had a lot of experience and you're also working on offering the services, and if someone would be, but if anybody would say, okay, how should I start out right now? The first three steps to maybe set up a blog. What would you say the first three steps should be? Find a domain name or find out where you want to host your website? Or is there a thought around the first three steps? Here you go and take them.
Okay. If you want to do this by yourself right now and you're on a very limited budget,
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, so maybe on a limited budget, but also limited in time and shy and not technical.
Yeah.
I would imagine, you could start out very simple and take one of what you mentioned in the beginning, take one of the WordPress sites and just take the simple step there and have them do the back end.
The reason I'm hesitating is because if you reserve a domain name, you want to get it right.
Yeah.
And build, if you've heard of SEO out there, search engine optimization, you want a strong history, and bring your website up in the search ranking so that you're on that first page of search results when people look for whatever it is that you do, aromatherapy for emotional trauma. You want to be on that first page. And the best way to do that is longevity. So I almost feel like reserving a domain name first isn't the way to go until you have written some of your content. Open up a Google document or a Word document, wherever you, just a text writer, wherever you write stuff, do it on paper. I would start writing your about page and start writing a little bit of content and start doing some brainstorming on who your ideal client is, because your domain name, and this was actually a mistake that I made. I've just stayed with my domain name over years because I have so much SEO built into it. I come up on the first page for like business aromatherapy services, which is amazing. What you choose, you need to stay with, you need to commit to. So make sure that it's focused enough on what you do and that you will feel comfortable representing that for a long time. No pressure.
No, not at all.
It needs to be your name, and you have an original enough name that it's not taken. Great. I think everybody should always reserve their name if they can, or some interesting, catchy variation of their name. That can work. A tagline for your business, and that also comes from writing a little bit more before you go to this first step. So I guess I'm saying that my first step would maybe be write some of the most basic web pages, even if you don't have the site yet, even if you don't have the domain yet, because you need to know what you're about before you do that.
So basically, sit down.
The first couple of years, maybe if you have a blog that while you're getting your footing, I think that there's no harm there. But the sooner you can get to a really representative domain name, because it's really going to benefit you. If you need to just get started and you don't know what to do and you just want to write a blog, I would go to WordPress.com and sign up for something and choose. If I had to do this today, I guess I would choose Michelle Gilbert Aromatherapy and just start going. And really work in that first year to focus a little bit more on my niche and things like that. So yes, I would write the basic about page. I would write who you feel like you serve right now based on where you're at right now. I would see what comes of that and see if maybe you have a great idea for a domain name. Keep it short. Don't put hyphens in it like I did.
Oh, I know. Yeah. That's a different. And also make it so you can spell it out quickly, and it's not like a tongue twister.
And so it's easy to say. And so if you're like, once we get to meet with people in person again, and you go to a networking event, and people ask you what your website is, make sure that you can say it, A, without feeling weird, and B, people don't look at you and go, what? Like, if you
What
can
was
do
that?
that, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that one of my very first websites when I had a textile business. My mom is she loves France, so it had to be somewhat of a French name. It was called Liaison. .com, but in America or in any non-French speaking country, it was very difficult. What? We got this
Right.
like a liaison, it's like you have to spell it out, and I misspelled it even at times. So you don't want to make that mistake that you
No. And well, okay. My
hold on
advice is
me
to
over.
keep it simpler than you think you need it to be.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's so tempting, whether we're structuring our website and the web pages that we should have on it, to go
yeah,
super creative, or even with our business name or our URL. I understand that you really want to express yourself, and you want to try and put your best into it. But you have to remember what's on the other end. How will your client be searching? What are they searching for? What are the search terms they're using to get to you? That might be your URL. That might be your domain name.
yeah. What you just said, aromatherapy, and emotional trauma or anything. If that is around that, it might not be even Katrin Burkholz or Michelle Gilbert. It might be aromatherapy or trauma, aromatherapy or something like this.com. And
Right.
yeah, I agree. It should be something, if you know already your niche, I think that's much easier. But I think it's a really good suggestion to say that you should just start writing and to see where it leads you for maybe a couple of months or a couple of weeks, to just keep on writing and see, and then decide maybe for a name. And then
Yeah.
you mentioned tagline. Some of
Yeah.
some of our listeners might not even know right now what a tagline really is or what it can do to your business. But I do
Yeah.
think it is important to have a tagline, maybe if it is not very clear in your name what you're doing.
I feel like if you're using your name as your business, that works well if you are fairly established,
Yeah.
and people know who you are and know to search for you. And then it's probably a good idea to have a tagline to make it a little more clear. Mine is Essentials for Confident Aromatherapy. So the tagline is the descriptor of your business.
Right. Yeah.
And there's all sorts of business theories on this, and a good somebody I do some business coaching, but there are people who that's all they do, and those are great people to talk to about brainstorming business name, tagline, things like that. I think if you're not even in this territory just yet, that's okay, and maybe a good place to start would be maybe getting on Instagram or whatever social media
Mm.
channel you feel your client is going to be hanging out at. It's not where you're most comfortable, it's where you think your client's going to be at.
Yeah.
And set up a temporary social media handle there, because you can change it later. I wouldn't wait too long, but start writing content. Like, find your voice, doing
Mm.
videos, because what comes out of your mouth is
Mm.
sometimes very different to what comes out of your fingers. I'm guilty of that because I've done a lot of writing. Um,
Mm.
Sometimes you'll get known for something, like the way you talk about a subject, or you don't even, it's a great mirror. You don't realize what you're passionate about until you watch it, or somebody comes back to you and says, gosh, I never thought about this that way. Those are huge
Right.
clues to where you need to
Yes.
go, or what your
Yes.
domain might be, or your tagline, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was obviously a much deeper conversation, and I'm not being super helpful about the three most important steps
No,
to do.
no, because I think I think it was pretty clear, and I think it is a really good idea before you open up a website and start thinking about all of the sideways, is start writing first and see what you even maybe want to decide on what to put on your website, because you might be a great blog post writer, you might not be, and you might be what you just said, be really easy on a video, and you go online and shoot a video, and that's going to be part of your blog post or your publishing tool. So I think playing around is a wonderful idea, and maybe give yourself like a time limit and say, for 1 month I'm going to sit down and write, or shoot a video, or just feel myself out. And then I do think what you mentioned is then you can go and get your website name, and then you can go ahead and publish it. And then all the other steps going to follow, like Google Analytics and SEO and how to get, the right tags in there, the long tail keywords and whatnot else. There's so much to think about. But I think we have to start. And that is the most important point. And I think what we mentioned in the very beginning, we do absolutely think a website is necessary, or a blog, some kind of an outlet which belongs to you and not to social media only.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I think that is important. Then obviously that people can contact you. You mentioned a contact form would be maybe better than an email address, putting it out there, because you will receive all kinds of marketers contacting you. And also you can ask a few questions to your clients or to the people who come into your world in this contact form. So I think that is a really nice, if you do.
Yeah. You can guide people through a contact form, and there are various ways to filter and make sure that they're giving you the information that you need to respond to them most skillfully. And, I didn't get into a lot of detail in a lot of these. I was kind of staying a little more zoomed out. There are so many things that we just didn't have a chance to talk about, like, setting up a scheduling service.
Yes.
So people know how to, especially right now, I think that that's a vital thing to do.
I agree. That is,
there's so much, but I almost don't want to go there, because I would say, don't psych yourself out. If this is a new world to you, yes, start slowly. I am saying, we both are saying, yes, you need a website. But if you want to spend a couple months, 6 months experimenting to figure out what that container needs to look like, do that.
Yeah.
6 months is not a long time as compared to, I wish I would have done that rather than gone, oh yeah, I need my domain to be my name, but I'm not changing it now. And it's a great example of what not to do. But even so, you can make it work for you. It's all in how you use things.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and I think a lot of people do shrink away from making decisions, and then they might be wrong. So let that not come into your way either, that you're so afraid of putting yourself out there, or reserve a website name. And if you're 2 months or 3 months into your business and you feel like you chose the wrong website name, there is still time to change that part. It's like what you're just saying as well. If you're in there and the SEO has been doing its work and Google found you on the first website, and it does take 6 months, a year, 2 years sometimes to get to the first site, you don't want to change it then necessarily anymore.
You can work with it. I mean, and if you have to change it, then obviously it does happen, and there's a staged process that you would want to go through.
Yeah, you can convert.
But if I had to choose a business name today, I would really spend or a domain, or however we want to reference it here. I would spend a lot of time writing and exploring and making sure that my voice was clear, that I knew who I was serving, I knew what their language was, the pain points, everything we've talked about today. And then what I would do once I knew that I felt really solid and I was getting some response, and it wasn't just people that I knew who wanted to support me. It's super exciting to get the first stranger to comment on your blog or whatever. It's extremely exciting.
That is exciting. Or to have your first online booking.
Yes, and when you start getting all of that, then I think what you can do is condense down, who your ideal client is. You hear them described as ICA, ideal client, avatar, target client, however you want to talk about it. Condense them down, write their bio. I think it's even a form of movement meditation. Embody that person, be that person, journal as if you're that person. What are you struggling with? What do you need help with? That aromatherapy, like, what do you know about aromatherapy? What do you not know about aromatherapy? Write that. And then what I would do that. And then what I would do is take keywords that were like each a piece of what I had just written, and I would put them, and I actually did this for my tagline, I would put them on different pieces of paper, like even if I didn't like them all, and I would rearrange them to see how they looked in specific sequence. And that was how I came up with Essentials for Confident Aromatherapy.
There you go. See, that's a great suggestion as well. Yeah, there is, and I think if you're not fully finished with your aromatherapy studies, and I think we have a few people also in the group who are just in the midst of it, and they're finishing up in a month or 2 months or 3 months. I think you can even start already at this point earlier to start writing maybe, or to start thinking about what you want. I don't think it's too early at all. You can switch. I mean, a blog post is going to live there, but it doesn't mean you can take it down in a year or 2 years if you don't like it anymore. And it also doesn't mean that you need to write constantly now about trauma if you started out like this. But
No,
it's a
give yourself
good
room to
practice.
evolve. And if you don't like that blog post you wrote 5 years ago, write a new one, link to it in your new one, and talk about what you would say differently now, because now you're getting double traffic.
And that's very interesting to people too. Oh, and it's normal that we do adjust by during all the learning times and periods. I mean, I'm not there where I was 6 years ago right now when I think about aromatherapy and essential oils. It's completely different. So my blog I started 6 years ago is very different from, from where it is now, or what I do now. And that is also just a word of encouragement. Basically, it's not written in stone. And I like that idea that you can rewrite and then point to it, or write an update to your blog. A lot of people do that, like update on this and this date. This is how I think now. And then the old blog post is right below. So yeah, well, we're almost at an hour here, and I know that a lot of people will be catching it afterwards, and there will be comments coming in like the last time. And I think everybody enjoyed it, whoever was able to watch it. So I'm really excited about our chat session, and I think a lot of people will enjoy also this one right now. But are there any closing words from your side? Otherwise, I think we can close. So
I
our
was
chat.
if there were any questions that.
I'm just seeing there are no more comments which came in right now. And I do think that they will be coming in like last time, a little bit later, and some questions. So right now, it looks all good from here. No comments at this point.
I think the only thing I would say is, we're talking a lot about technology, and we're talking about marketing, and these can be intimidating topics, especially as we're here with a focus on supporting people in wellness and healing, and they're just very different worlds. So push yourself a little bit, but remember, your job isn't to design a website. Your job is to get out there and support people, and do what you can confidently that you feel proud representing. But if you get in over your head, help is out there. I strongly recommend it. If it's me, if it's somebody else, you will be thankful that you did, because you'll get out there even faster with a strong online presence. It's ultimate benefit. And doing the work of going through that process makes your business goals and who you serve and how you do it and your own voice even clearer. I think business is a spiritual practice, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that is very true. Michelle, I just want to do one thing. I want to pull up your website and just put it in here. And so people have that, because it's michelle-gilbert.com, right?
Yes, the thing I told you not to do. The services, that we're discussing today just aren't there. I'm doing, speaking of pivoting, I'm doing a little bit of a pivot, and embracing my tech DNA. My whole family's in the tech industry, and I'm kind of a closeted geek, and I feel like there's as I look around, I think there's a really strong need here, and I enjoy it. I enjoy creating these containers for other people and taking that pressure off of you, so you can go out there and do that thing that you're meant to do. It really makes me happy. So, next month or two, it's not, don't contact me yet at all. I'm here and happy to help. I don't have it fully ironed out on the website yet, but
anybody can come right now already, and it might be even good and helpful to see if you have questions or concerns or anything, to see what comes in, and then you can still adjust or go with your offerings as they come as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of building this on the fly based on need. This is live market research, and I'm excited to take this direction. it's long overdue, actually.
It is. It is really. It is. I mean, this is why Aromatherapists in Business, the group, was born, because I really do feel that there are a lot of beautiful souls, and as you said, we are in the healing business and helping business and everything else, but we do have to get more exposed as well, and the only way to do this is literally going online and finding a way to speak out loud a little bit more and send awareness out. So thank you so much, Michelle, again. It's been a pleasure.
It's fun to come back and visit every month. I enjoy it, and I enjoy connecting with all of you. So if you have any questions, or put in the comments or reach out to me on my website, happy to talk.
Please do so, Michelle-Gilbert.com. So that one works really well. And then you will see probably another poll for the next month. And if you have any ideas and questions you would like us to discuss, please send them in as well. You can send an email to Michelle. You can send just a comment in the group as well. We're so happy that this group is existing, as well as the community. So we're heading in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a lovely afternoon for you.
Oh, thank you. What time is it? Your evening?
Now it's 6 p.m. Yeah, so I've got one more call at 7, but that's it then for me. And you're still going into your afternoon coffee or tea. Yeah, there it is. All right. Well, talk to you next month, and talk to everybody else in between. And yeah, have a lovely day, everyone.
Sounds good. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.